There we go. Cocktails in Crypto episode. What is it, guys?
4,
4.
I think.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Let's see what you got.
I'm going with the same as last time.
Me too.
It was still on my desk.
Nice.
Midsummer Night Dram, High West. I actually really like this whiskey. I'm sticking with it.
And I'm still doing the higher end margarita, the
Nice.
Reposado and the mix that's made with agave.
Nice.
And you, Doug?
Oh, hold on. I just want to send this email really fast. I've got starting a new law firm. Like I got a lot of things going on. This is Basil Hayden. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a pretty good whiskey. Not, it's not Pappy Van Winkle, but it's a good bourbon.
Nice.
Nice. Well, cheers to episode 4.
3 or 4. 4 probably. Cheers.
Tron, as per usual, I have my Mango Farm glass. I don't know if you can see that.
Awesome. I like it.
Yeah.
It's a little blurry, but
courtesy of Tron Black, who had it specially made with a decanter for me. That was one of the nicest gifts, I think. One of my most treasured gifts. Let's put it that way.
oh, thank you.
That's
That's
wonderful.
nice to say.
All right. So what are we going to talk about? We've talked about cocktails. Now it's time to talk about crypto.
Yeah. Well, crypto's been pretty level for the last, I don't know, couple of months, really.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. It seems like it's still correlated with the equities market. I mean, there's kind of the idea it's going to break out from that and diverge,
Yeah.
but just continues to follow the equities market. And, we look at gold, and that's a commodity, right? And there's this idea, I know, amongst investors that we're doing a capital cycle of out of equities and shifting more into commodities. And if Bitcoin is the digital gold, I'm kind of hoping and waiting to see that kind of break out and start behaving a little bit differently than the equities markets.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we kind of stopped printing money in the short term. So I think once they ramp up the printers again, I think that's going to come at some point.
I don't personally think that Bitcoin's growth has been driven by that counter-inflationary narrative. Personally, it's a network effect still. Maybe it will in the long run, but I think the price appreciation in Bitcoin is just a function of the fact that it started out with Hal Finney and Satoshi sending one transaction to each other and grew through the sort of cypherpunk New Hampshire libertarian sort of ethos and into mainstream, right? So the more and more get onboarded, the more and more the demand drives the value up. I don't view it as a supply driven economic basis behind the price yet. That's just me. I mean, I don't know if anybody but that's my thought.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen the chart, at least look at the chart of the kind of the M2 money supply relative to Bitcoin, because it's pretty tightly correlated to that.
Yeah, and I agree. The network effect certainly plays into the price as well. And I'm 100% in agreement of that. And so, I'm assuming we're going to continue to have more adoption for Bitcoin, and that network effect will continue to grow. Adoption meaning even people just buying it and holding it in their wallets. There's more and more people, and I would expect it to also be contributing to that as well.
Well, and it's rising to the level of nation states now, right? At a very serious level. A million Bitcoin reserved for the US, a reserve for other countries. It's gonna be sort of a race to have the Fort Knox equivalent of Bitcoin in relative order. I'm surprised the price hasn't gone up.
An empty vault, you mean? Or
I've seen the gold, not in Fort Knox, but in the matter of fact, hold on, I have this is kind of cool. I got this that day, but this is a bag of shredded $100 bills. From the Federal Reserve. But when you go to the Federal Reserve's New York building, down in the basement, that's where they have the gold vault. It's not the vault for the United States. It's the vault for the United States holdings of everybody else's gold. We're a custodian. And it's pretty neat because it's really, you guys know I have this Pacioli ledger thing that I've been talking about for a long time, but it's really a ledger inside that vault room where
Yeah.
you forklift to debit out of one and credit into another.
Yeah, it's great.
Kind of neat.
Yeah, that's interesting. And if you look at I don't know, I think I may have talked about this last time. I apologize if I did, but if you look at the gold market, I mean, it's been pretty interesting because a lot of people have been taking physical delivery of gold. I mean, like record breaking physical delivery in January, February. And, it's probably just due to a lot of uncertainty, quite frankly. But it's been an interesting time to say the least.
Well, gold's no different than I'm not an expert in the custodial arrangements that underlie the gold market, but I'm guessing that it's not unlike any other sort of non-trustee based custodial arrangement where it's actually the ownership title doesn't pass to the purchaser, that it's held by the custodian, just like a bank account or Mt. Gox. So in times of uncertainty, you want your gold in your basement.
Yep.
Right next to your gun. Because good luck getting it if the custodian goes bankrupt and it is on their balance sheet. Because getting an IOU out of a bankrupt entity is, all you need to do is talk to somebody who's litigated the Lehman case, which I have. Good luck.
Yeah. Or put crypto in Celsius or any of other.
Yep, for sure. Unless it's FTX, in which case you get paid out 100 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
20% of what your Bitcoin would have been worth or something like that.
Well, I mean, look, if they didn't have to pay Sullivan and Cromwell $1 billion, $1.2 billion, whatever, but that's a different story. I actually just had my partners talk to my class about sort of high level, but about sort of what it's like to try the FTX case and stuff. It's pretty cool.
So what do you guys think about all this tariff business? And do you see it affecting crypto in any way, or how do you read it?
Miners. Yeah. I mean, it'll impact miners. I don't know. I mean, China was so big, when I first started mining. Yeah, I mean, you guys remember 2016? That's when I basically started mining.
Yeah.
It was the center of the universe for the whole mining side of crypto. And
yep.
And it looked like it was going to be the future of crypto and AI. Remember, they had all those, Bitmain was getting into AI and they were making those at the time, I think it was like 7 nanometer chips and using them for AI. And then it just all disappeared.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think, because it's correlated with the stock market, I think the tariffs hit the stock market, hit crypto at the same time. But yeah, I think my personal thought is that, they kind of expected the bond market to drop more than it did. And we don't have, we still have to pay quite a bit interest to borrow money. And so I don't think it maybe didn't work maybe quite as well as was expected, but which means that we'll likely print more money soon.
And that would, according to the narrative, that would affect crypto prices, that, like you mentioned, M2 money supply. So
that's what I think.
To increase that, then you would expect it to also affect crypto.
That's my base case. Yeah. I mean, if all this worked, and honestly, it'd actually be better if it all worked, right? We lowered the interest rate and we refinanced a bunch of the debt at the lower rates, and we also get more efficient because of Doge. And if everything worked, then it'd be great. I mean, it probably wouldn't help crypto hardly at all, but it would be great to kind of get back on track and spend less and try to have less debt and refinance the debt at lower rates and have a little more wiggle room. I think it'd be fantastic, but hasn't worked out perfectly yet.
Certainly changing. I mean, that's for sure, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys a funny story. I wouldn't call it a tariff, but I would call it some sort of a penalty. My first miner wasn't my first. It was close to my first though. That I bought from China, from Bitmain, right? You used to have an option of sending a wire. And if you send the wire, it like drops into a black hole and you never get your miner, right? So use Bitcoin to buy some S7s, I think it was at the time. And I got this batch of S7s at the house and brought it into the mudroom and opened it up, and out flew this giant, like this big Chinese hornet, which apparently are like really bad. Like if you see a Chinese hornet, like you have to kill it, otherwise it'll like invade the whole northern hemisphere. And so anyway, that was like my introduction to shipping goods from China to America.
Did you kill it?
Oh, we called we cupped it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
But Lisa's really good. It's weird. She's like a weird talent. She's really good at like catching like nasty creatures with cups. So she cupped it and then put a piece of paper on it, and then we held it we put it in a jar and then held it for the animal control dude. Yeah.
wow. Did they come get it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Came to the
Wow.
house.
Yeah.
Why would they want it? Why didn't they just tell you to kill it?
I can't answer that question.
I would think like, all right, grab a shoe. That's I thought they
Well,
would tell you to
maybe
do.
maybe they want to analyze it in case they're shipping lots of those all over the place, right?
It was the
It's
craziest
it's the
giant
hornet attack.
It was literally like this big. It was crazy. I don't know what that has to do with tariffs, but it just came to mind.
Yeah, it probably bypassed the tariffs. You can imagine. Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me. I remember I haven't heard about it since, but wasn't there a thing going on a couple years ago about like people receiving seeds in the mail?
Yes, I remember
And then
that.
people would be like, what is this? And they'd just plant them, and it was like this invasive species and everything.
Yeah, that
I don't
was
know whatever
super
happened to
weird.
that. It was
Yeah.
weird, wasn't it?
Like unsolicited plants
Yeah.
just showing up. It's like yeah,
Well, I'm
that
trying.
was weird.
You've seen our hillside, right? I mean, I planted the whole hillside behind my house with a lot of money worth of plants, really nice plantings. And then we have this plant called kudzu here, which is, I guess it's a Japanese.
Oh yeah.
Once it takes root, man, it devours everything in its wake. So
Yeah.
the whole hillside now is that kudzu back there.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have some on our lawn. It's hard to get rid of.
It's impossible. You just can't get rid of it. All you can do is mechanically stop it. Thankfully, I have 35 feet of sheet pile. Can't get past it.
Yeah. So I've kind of been trying to dive a bit into those tariffs, just try to have a better understanding. And couple things if you guys are interested. So there's a playbook that they're running off of. So Stephen Moran, he's a senior advisor in the Trump administration. He wrote a white paper in November called The User's Guide to Restructuring Global Trading System. And they're following basically this playbook. And a lot of this here that he wrote is based off of, have you guys ever heard of the economist Michael Pettis?
No.
He's a Ivy League trained PhD economist, but he teaches that. So he's American, but he teaches out of China. And he wrote a book about a decade ago called The Great Rebalancing. Read this about 10 years ago. A lot of what they're doing is based on this book. And then he also came out with another paper in October called Trade Intervention for Freer Trade. And this paper here is a lot of what is kind of the basis for what they're running all of this off of. And it's pretty academic, but it's really interesting of what they're trying to do.
Is the thesis basically, you leveraging tariffs as a negotiating strategy to actually reduce trade barriers? Is that sort of the theme?
That's pretty much the theme. But the key part about it is that the main target is China in all of this. And the US knows that it can't do it alone, and that it needs to build a coalition of other nations that are going to also, go after China as well. And the reason why I say go after China, it's nothing to do with the Chinese people. It has to do with the history of their trade practices. They've been breaking a lot of rules over the years, and we've just been kind of letting it slide and let it slide. I mean, the pattern is, okay, here's the prospect of this big Chinese market, an American company, come on in, we have this big market. They go over there, steal all the IP, build another factory, does the exact same thing, and then undercut that company. In addition, whenever you set up a company over there, there's a special entity that you have to create it under, and you have to give
I've heard about that. Yeah.
51% over as well. And if a company has like, I can't remember the number of employees, 10 employees or more, 15, some sort of threshold. They have to have a member of the Chinese Communist Party as a member of the company. And so they're, even if their title isn't like president or CEO, it could be an accountant, for example, but they're the spokesperson for the CCP, and they're kind of the end all be all on how that company acts and behaves. So if a company wants to do A, but the CCP says, no, you need to do B, you have to do B. And so, there's a lot of things like that that go on. And so it's just trying to basically get them to play by the rules and try to level the playing field. And part of it, you remember when Mitt Romney, when he ran for president, he talked about that he would label China as a currency manipulator.
Yep.
The reason why he was saying that was that they artificially keep the yuan low. So if you follow like macroeconomic theory, their currency should be rising with being an export nation like that, but they artificially keep it low, which keeps them highly competitive in the world market because they artificially keep it low. That undercuts everybody. And these are some of the things that the US is trying to say, hey, you need to start playing by the rules here because you're a surplus nation. And I mean, they're building, from my understanding, widgets so much that they're having to house them in warehouses. They don't have the world is not able to consume how much they're producing. They just keep producing and undercut markets. And so all of this is to kind of rein that in and, try to bring some, a little more. I don't think we'll ever get to a fully balanced trade, but it's to at least not have a prolonged high deficit with China as long as we've had and as big as we have.
Have you guys seen today the inundation on it hit X, but it started, I guess, on TikTok? Complete inundation of Chinese companies talking about how they're making all of the branded products for Western.
I did see some of that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hermes,
Yeah. Yes.
Gucci, whatever. It's these Chinese companies saying you've been deceived. These products are not being made in Paris or in Italy or whatever. We get the raw materials, we make it here, then we send it back without the label and with a couple of things that need to be done still. And then put those remaining things together and say that it's made in, Paris or whatever.
Yeah. The one I saw is like, and you can't make it somewhere else because our quality is way better. And we have the supply chains for all the parts and pieces of it. And
yeah. And that's why I think they had to go broad with a lot of countries, because when we put tariffs in place the first time, they were side skirting them by setting up entities in other countries that we didn't have those tariffs in. And so that's how they were kind of able to get around it. And the other thing I think, and honestly, I have no idea whether or not this is going to work. I mean, I think it's a gamble, but I think Trump did have to act quickly and aggressively because they've got to start seeing the changes and the positive outcomes from this before midterms, because you get to midterms, if it's not working and things are still like taking too long, like if we would have gone one by one per country and negotiate, it would have taken forever and we probably wouldn't have gotten very far. So he's got to show positive results by midterms. Otherwise, I think it could go the other way against him. And then he's going to have a really hard time getting anything else done after that. So it was like, time is of the essence, act now, act boldly, and start getting things started right away. That's what I think. Yeah,
well, it's been a whipsaw for the past 2 weeks, right? I've had clients, I've canceled lunches that they were unable to, like long planned lunches, unable to do anything other than stare at a Bloomberg terminal. Because I mean, it was just a whipsaw last week,
Oh, whipsaw for the stocks, you mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So my friend down here, he does, he works in the like screen printing and printing of, those items that you get for like shows and things like that. So, a lot of that inventory comes from China. So it's kind of dramatically affecting, pricing and having to resource from somewhere else. And
Mark, who is really good.
Oh yeah.
Jeremy, this is a friend of mine who owns a sunglass business.
Oh, really?
Sunglass manufacturing franchise, business, and he sources, I think 100% of his product from China.
Yeah, and it's been interesting to see them retaliate with stopping exports of rare earth minerals. I think that was probably anticipated. I don't know. what the outcome of that will look like. Because I think what they're 95% of the world's rare earth minerals, and
No,
doesn't
the refining, not the source, the refining.
the refining. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Because my guess is that you can't just turn that on a dime and all of a sudden just pop up refining facilities all
Yeah.
over. Like that would, I'd assume, take a few years to get online.
Bring it to New Jersey. I mean, we refine all the oil, and might as well refine the rare earth. Yeah, New Jersey and Louisiana. Yeah, it must clarified that. I don't know if it's accurate, but that's what he said. I have no reason to doubt it. So
It was the refining of it. That's good to know. And so my guess is that they're very intensive processes to refine those, would be my guess. And
Yeah.
each mineral has its own process, right? And I don't know how many total are considered rare earth mineral, but I would guess it's quite a bit to refine each one of those.
yeah, he had a post that said something, I'm paraphrasing, something to the effect of, rare earth minerals aren't actually rare. They're scarce only because of the refining capacity. And most of the refining is in China. I mean, because we can just get tons of it by, just putting more boots on the ground in Greenland and Ukraine, right? So I actually, that's a big part of our geo strategy here is rare earth minerals.
Oh, interesting.
Why else would we be in Greenland?
Yeah.
Remember that show where like those guys like meandered around? Was it in Greenland? It was in Greenland. They like meandered around out in the wilderness in Greenland, and it's like they'd come across this giant vein of rubies, and then like they'd be walking 10 more feet, and there'd be like a vein of emeralds.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, it was a show. It was a show on like the
Yeah.
Disney Channel or something. It was great.
Yeah. So in the end, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if we're going to be able to build that coalition of countries that are going to say, yeah, we'll step in line with the US. It seems like we're kind of taking a lot of our allies off. So I don't know. I don't really know if it's going to work or not.
I don't either. I know people have strong views on this. I don't. On the one hand, we have allowed ourselves to get taken advantage of as a country. We basically support the world, and in return, what do we get? Mockery. But in the same vein, our allies are strong, forceful friends. We went to 3 wars in the Middle East, and they all sent their troops and their ships and their sons to fight with us. Whether you think those wars were good or bad, they were there.
Yep.
Even the Canadians. So I mean, when I see the Canadians like wounded animals saying like, how can our, how they're like all shaky, and how can our good friends in the South like do this to us? I kind of feel for them. It's like a little brother.
I think you just offended every Canadian.
That's all right. But you understand that, like you saw the people that, the Canadian politicians who were talking about it, like they were stunned.
Yeah. Well, a friend of mine said to me, just was like early on, he said, I can't tell if it's 4D chess or checkers.
Yeah.
And I do think it is 4D chess. I think they have a plan.
I don't.
I think
it's pure checkers.
Yeah.
I jumping 1, 2, trying to get that double jump.
Yeah. I think it is. I think they are, but again, still.
Let me ask you this: if you read that plan that they're working from, did it include kind of like putting tariffs on everybody and then kind of backing off on the tariffs on everybody, and then except for China kind of thing? Was that part of the?
It's to bring everybody.
Plan?
It's to bring everybody to the bargaining table. And
I know the original part did, but then backing off on it, was that part of it, or was that like, all right, we're kind of like pushing this a little too hard, or the stock market's not reacting like it should, or that type of thing? I was wondering if that part of it is
no, that's not outlined there at all. And I think that is a response.
That's why they pulled it.
What's
Sorry,
that?
what was that, Doug?
Bond market is going bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it didn't talk anything about that. So, I think that's kind of the messiness that will happen. Things like that will continue to happen. But no, nothing about that. And
I'm not getting the sense, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I'm not getting this. I'm getting the sense that this is more of a sort of generalized strategy and a lot of shoot from the hip.
But if it was, but if it was written down already in advance,
right.
I mean, if they're following a map, that's a little bit different than one guy going, you know what, let's just throw tariffs on everybody, right?
Yeah.
And so if they've written it down kind of in advance, they're kind of following a playbook, even if they're pivoting from the playbook when things didn't go maybe as they expected. I think both of those would be good things. Both the following a playbook that they think is going to work, but also pivoting if it starts tearing things apart.
Yeah.
well, to me, the fact of the matter is like we're on an unsustainable path. I mean, we know that something has to change, and the
Agreed.
order has to be restructured in some way. Now, is this the right way to go about doing it? I'm not sure, but I'll be honest. I applaud the boldness to try to do something to try to fix it. And we were on a path that was quite frankly unsustainable. And if we look at our middle class, it is deteriorating. We look at small towns. I think JD Vance really talks a lot about this because he saw it firsthand in his upbringing. I mean, these towns have been totally gutted, jobs have left, and it was based upon this promise that it was going to be free trade was going to be great for everybody. Well, it wasn't great for everybody. It really harmed a lot of our working class. And then what happens? We see crime go up, we see anger go up, we see drug use go up, we see all these things happen, and something needed to change. And again, I don't know if this is going to work, but I at least applaud the boldness and that they're trying to act on making changes.
Yeah. So as people I talked to, I said we were already heading right straight towards the wall. And so now, there's like we'll call it a narrow pathway of not hitting the wall, and we'll see what happens.
Look, the thing that's troubling to me is to see the lack of engagement with the notion of future prosperity by my kids' generation. There's this sort of apathy that's set in. And I think it's largely a function of just the decimation of the middle class since about 1974.
But it's set in prior to these changes, though.
No, it's been a 40-year
Yeah.
trend.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of hitting the wall, right? I mean, it's been going on for a long time. These changes have a shot, albeit narrow, shot of working. It is a aggressive change, but it has a shot at working.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a patriot, but personally, the last time I felt optimistic about the future of the United States was during Clinton Gingrich. But Clinton, Gingrich, Greenspan. That was the triumvirate there. Balanced budget, extreme growth, and the creation basically of the internet and of the information superhighway.
Thanks, Al Gore.
Yeah. Right? I mean, really, if I look back, this poor, I don't know what generation it is. Is it millennials? I mean, I guess Gen X too. I mean, we've gone through the whole thing ourselves, but we've had nothing but one hit after another, after another financial crisis, .com bust, financial crisis, COVID, inflation, multiple rounds of this stuff, I mean, remember the late 90s? It was great. It was like everything was just great.
But the first financial crisis with the end of the 90s, right?
Yeah, it wasn't so bad. I mean, you had some, cats.
Well, unless you're like me and invested in pets.com.
Pets.com. I was going to say cats.com. I mean, well, that's your problem. I mean, who the hell
That was my problem.
But we got Amazon out of it. We got, Amazon changed the world.
They did. Change the world. Yeah. Destroyed a lot of brick and mortar, though.
Yeah. Changed the world. Yeah. Revolutionized the world. Whether it's good or bad, I don't know. But definitely change. Well, I personally love, I don't, I live in a small town. We have little knick-knack shops or whatever, but I love being able to hit a button, getting anything in the world delivered within 5 hours.
Yeah. I like that too, but I think it comes at an expense.
Yeah. Did you see, by the way, Blue Origin just launched a bunch of ladies into space today?
I did see that.
Kind
Yeah.
of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I did see that.
That was neat. Hey, by the way, speaking of crypto, which we're not doing yet, but you guys can't get up to Harvard next week, can you? I'm doing a panel at Harvard on the 25th.
On what?
Crypto.
Nice.
Let me check. I may.
I'm going to talk about Ravencoin to some Harvard people.
Sweet, sweet.
I guest lectured Alan Farrell's class. What was it, 2 years ago now? And I just couldn't stop talking about Ravencoin the whole time. I have like generation after generation of students in my class. I'm like the only person that talks about Ravencoin. Like the three of us, right? So
Yeah, but they're going to go out in the world, change it. Right?
they're going out in the world. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I've been teaching 7 years now. So, you know, some of my early students are getting senior in their respective positions at various firms and regulators and you know, companies, you know, so it's kind of neat.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Well, and it seems like, you know, talk about tokenization and real world assets, tokenizing and all that. I mean, it just continues to feel like it's getting more and more momentum. And I mean, that's why Ravencoin was built. I mean, it was built to facilitate that. And so, you know, when companies or people are talking about it, you know, I'd love for the Ravencoin to be attractive to them. Like they see that. And I don't know if they're unaware of it or what, but it's there. It's there, ready, you know, ready for them to use. And it just seems that, you know, it's going to take 1 or 2 big kind of projects to launch on that. And then I think things would, you know, it would show real world use case and show, hey, this works. This is secure. This has the functionality we need. And then it starts going more and more from there.
Yeah.
Look, there's 2 things that I have to say to that. One is, I mean, because you guys know I've built platforms for Ravencoin and on Ravencoin. It is the best tool for the job, if you ask me. Outside of DeFi, the problem is the DeFi issue, right?
Yeah.
Is sort of the flipping it into that universe of, I don't want to be pejorative, you know, Ethereum, DeFi.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some advantages to that though. It's tough. It's tough being in the US because some of that stuff becomes illegal, but there's sure some advantages to DeFi as well, right? Just having a trading platform that's kind of built into that
Yep.
Right into the platform.
So what you guys constructed, you know, and the team that sort of built this out, you constructed sort of the equivalent of a Swiss Army knife, right? Here are the 10 tools that are essential to do this stable way using a Bitcoin UTXO model, right? I value that because, you know, at a sort of a very basic technical level, I see the benefit and wisdom in doing it that way, as opposed to a multi-purpose sort of all things to all people smart contract platform where you know, individual engineers can write whatever code they want and you know and you run it. So the world has gone to that other one so far. And it remains to be seen. All of this stuff is in its infancy.
Yep.
You know, I was a little surprised is probably the wrong word. I mean, there's no expectations. Nobody has to use any platform, but I mean, I was surprised that this project was incubated in Overstock. Yeah. And Overstock issued its token on something else, on Ethereum.
Yeah.
But you know,
that was a mistake.
I can't judge, you know, I don't know, but
I can judge. It was a mistake.
I know you were there, but you know, all I know is I've sat here and you know, look, I'm a busy guy. I don't have to volunteer my time to anybody. And so are both of you, but I was like, literally, you know, it's the only thing I tweeted for a month, which I'm here to help. You know, you need help. I'm happy to help. I didn't want anything in return. I was just going to help. And I didn't get a call. I didn't get a response. I didn't get anything. It's like, okay, you know, that won't help. But, you know, you could have given two of you could have given technical advice. I could have given free legal advice, you know,
Yeah,
advice
yeah.
costs a lot of money. I would have been happy to do it, but
Yep.
yeah, didn't get it. No. So it's like all that came back was like, you should prove. It's like what? It's like asking somebody who uses TCP/IP to prove the benefit of the internet. I'm
Yeah.
just a user, you know.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me. So I was talking with a company recently, and they're wanting to launch their own token, but it would have a utility port, you know, tied to it, some sort of use case around it. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, Doug. Like, I don't know where things stand. I remember where things stand with tokens and the
Yeah.
SEC and whether it's utility token or not. I mean, utility tokens were all the talk back in 2013, 14, 15. Then it kind of like faded. Now it's kind of back again.
It became a dirty word, right? Because it was used as a sort of a camouflage for ICOs.
Yeah.
It was like a utility token without any utility. And I mean, I actually wrote an article early days on utility tokens. I believe the notion that if a token has utility, the token itself is not a security, but for other reasons than I think other people have said. But I think you were about to ask me a question. I don't want to be like Radar and MASH and anticipate it, even though I do that all the time. So go ahead and ask the question and then I'll answer it. I already know what
Well,
it is.
the question is, how has the regulatory environment kind of progressed over the years? And what do you anticipate to get some sort of clarity around whether tokens are securities or not? Because I recall in past conversations we've had, you've talked a lot about, hey, maybe the Howey test doesn't necessarily apply to tokens the way it applied a long time ago. Maybe we need to alter or change the way we look at whether something is a security or not. But I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are and where the space is.
Yeah, happy to talk about this stuff. You know, I won't monopolize the conversation, but so slightly different. You know, my point of view has always been that the underlying token itself, unless the token is a security. I mean, you know, you can have a security on the blockchain, like overstock floated bonds and series. What was it? Some series of preferred OSTKO or something on the blockchain. That thing is a security, not just the offering of the thing, but the thing. But I've always been of the view that with most of these projects, like Ethereum was offered in a securities offer. There's almost no debate about that. I mean, Ethereum people would probably debate that, but they're wrong. Ethereum was offered in a securities offer, but Ethereum never was a security from my perspective. The utility blockchain native asset. That's sort of the equivalent of, you know, getting a token at the arcade that you can then use to play machine. And I've always been of that view. Courts have started to come around to that view in recent years. I think Louis Cohen picked up on that view. He became, you know, from the perspective of the world, he became the leading proponent of it. From the perspective of the three people in this room, it was me years before him. And that's important because I think, you know, in this roundtable discussion, it has been completely missing. Louis was the only person to talk about it, and people didn't really respond to it. So it hasn't been picked up, even though I think it's the correct analysis of the law. So that's sort of a lot of backstory. Where are things going? We're definitely in a period of change. How I described to my class, I kind of still think this industry is much like a lion in a cage. What do I mean by that? If you take a lion and you stick a lion in a cage for its whole life, and then you open up the door, the lion won't leave, right? It's still a lion somewhere inside, but that instinct is just gone. It's just destroyed. And an industry that started with a lot of fervor has become an industry that can't do anything but talk about regulation. So I don't really know. I mean, the industry itself is like begging for regulation instead of going out and innovating. I'm not seeing a lot of it. I don't know if you guys are. I'm not seeing a lot of new innovation.
No, there used to be, but they kept getting Wells notices.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And
yeah.
then they became lions in the cage, right? So,
Yep.
so, you know, all the sort of pioneers either got Wells notices or got, you know, enforcement actions against them, and you know, what we're left with is we're going to be left with sort of crypto light, the BlackRock version of crypto, the custodied sort of, even Senator Lummis, in her bill, in her Bitcoin Strategic Reserve bill, put in a paragraph about self-custody. But where are the people that were in this space when we started? I mean, Sean, you and Jeremy started long before me, but where the principle, self-custody, decentralization, cypherpunk ethos, elimination of settlement and counterparty risk. These are the things that makes crypto what it is. It's what makes it a better ledger.
Yeah.
And these are the things that the industry basically is like, well, we don't need all that. Let's please have just regulation. Let's create boxes and we'll put ourselves in them. So the short answer is things are changing. I'm less optimistic about, certainly the regulatory environment is way, way better than it was 6 months ago. Okay, it just is. In general, the regulatory environment for all regulations, people in the white collar space are seriously concerned that they will have no work on the defense side for years. On the enforcement side and on the white collar side. I mean, I know this from people colleagues and former partners who do this. Very, very concerned. But I don't know if that necessarily means is a good thing. Because we're gonna get now what we asked for. I didn't ask for it, but people seem to be asking for it for a number of years, which is please come up with a whole bunch, have some round tables and come up with this big structure. And my point of view is regulate the issue, regulate the problems, right? ICOs were a problem. There's no question about it. Fraud was a problem in the space. No question about it. Okay, pass a one-page bill that says fraud in connection with the purchase or sale of crypto is illegal.
Yeah.
That's it.
I see that's what I think too. It's like that solves it. We've talked about this. We have all this other stuff, and it's like, well, isn't fraud illegal? And you're like, yeah, fraud's always been illegal. Okay, just then go after fraud, right? Because
I'm concerned that we're going to get. The industry is still very small. Okay, it's tiny. We think it's big because we're sort of into it and we're really interested in it or whatever. It's tiny, 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 tiny. It's small potatoes. Nothing compared to the financial markets. Nothing. It's irrelevant. Still. JP Morgan has almost $1 trillion on its balance sheet, which is the whole size of Bitcoin, or at least was a year ago. So, and that's one financial institution. From 2017, 2018 until present, outside of Ravencoin and outside of the Satoshi Roundtable, and even at the Satoshi Roundtable in recent years, every blockchain convention, talk, discussion, maybe it's because I'm a lawyer and every hammer looks like a nail, but every single thing is about regulation. And very, very limited discussion about the tech, how to advance the tech. I mean, I've had 10 panels about Howey for every 15-minute discussion I've had about how to bridge into a second layer solution to get from a UTXO-based model chain onto an EVM-based chain. If you can't get from Bitcoin over conveniently and simply from Bitcoin over into an EVM, and then start swirling around in the DeFi space and then peg back easily, conveniently, what are we talking about here? It has to be, everything has to be interoperable and fungible, and that's this much of what I hear, and I hear this much about Howey. Howey is so insignificant to the future of blockchain. And it's all the lawyers in the space can talk about. No one in the space other than Nagel, who I have his book here. Let me find it. Thomas Nagel. Can't read this.
Pull it back towards your face. See if it gets closer. That's nope.
Well, the legal nature of tokens. He's the person who wrote the Liechtenstein statute. Other than him, nobody is talking about basic questions. Like, I have an asset. I want to put title to that asset on the blockchain. How do I do it? Ask 10 lawyers that question and you'll get 9 people who have no idea and 1 person that's wrong. Yet they can spit out the Howey test for you left, right, up, and down. This is 99% of assets. The stocks on the blockchain, how many are there? 5?
Well, there's only a few because of the regulations. Otherwise, it would be it would rival NASDAQ now if it hadn't been stopped.
Yeah, but my point is that NASDAQ is a tiny fraction of the world's assets, right? Commodities, gold, stocks, or commodities, gold, real estate, all sorts of assets, derivatives eclipse the stock market by orders of magnitude. Commodities eclipse the stock market by orders of magnitude. This is the important stuff. And I'm talking I know how to write a contract because there's 500 years worth of common law that teaches me you need bargain for exchange, offer and acceptance, and consideration. So I know the elements of how to create a contract. So as a lawyer, I can sit down and I can write a contract. You ask me, Doug, write a contract that binds the other party. I can do that. You learn it in law school. There is no answer to the question, how do you tokenize a real world asset on the blockchain? I'd love to see bills about that.
Yeah.
Here's the following steps you need to take in order to like a UCC provision that says, you want to tokenize an asset on the blockchain? And I've been waiting for the ALI to catch up. I'm a member of the American Law Institute. They write the restatement on the laws. I was on the UCC observation committee. I didn't go because it was like they were just talking about very niche little issues instead of like the big, broad questions. And I'd love to see the space shift into that direction, where we stop talking about how do we create buckets for regulators to stick various blockchain projects into, and address sort of what are the fundamental issues that blockchain needs? What are the tools that will enable blockchain to sort of grow and thrive in its space, where what it does adds value to the world, which is decentralized, distributed exchange without trusted intermediaries.
Yeah.
On self-custody.
But I think one of the things Ravencoin was intended to do is be able to put that contract on the blockchain tied to a token so that you have like immutability about what the token represents, and things like that. So it's like the tools to allow that to happen, but we still don't have the framework legally to link those together.
It should be as simple as, it's been a long time now, but I actually testified to this in Wyoming and nobody listened to me. It should be as simple as going to, when you go to the Secretary of State, back in the day, office and hand in your papers, but now you can do it online. But you type in some basic information and you send it to the Secretary of State. And what do you get out of the Secretary of State when you do that? An LLC, certificate of formation. And what is it? It's just like an embossed little document with the modern equivalent of a fake wax seal.
Yeah.
As we government say, you, Tron Black, have Tron LLC, which now has an existence that we've allowed you to create.
Yep.
Okay, why can't I do that with any asset? Any asset. I go to the Secretary of State. I say, I have this asset. I want to create this token. Please give me a certificate. They give you the certificate. You hash that certificate, put it on Ravencoin, put it on Ethereum, and you've created the token. Guys, I've been in this space 7 years. When I first started talking about this, people looked at me like I had 4 heads when I even suggested that this was going to be something that was important, right? We're still not anywhere different than we were back then in America.
Yeah. Yeah. Which seems crazy. It seems pretty straightforward, including that, no more fraud kind of thing. Seems pretty straightforward. Also, it seems like the blockchain takes care of a lot of the stuff that they maybe intentionally separated, of having a transfer agent versus a broker dealer, versus an exchange. All of that stuff has been basically sorted out by technology, can be replaced by technology. And almost in the same way full self-driving can replace a driver,
Yeah.
the technology can do it better and with
No,
more
I mean,
documentation.
T-Zero's new stock doesn't use a transfer agent, which I thought was interesting. Is it T-Zero or beyond? I don't know, but what the new one they just issued, it is transfer agent free.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I won't, I already know the answer to my second question which was, would you tell a company now, yeah, go ahead, make it, go forward. You know, you use, there with the discussion I had with this company was mostly around the tokenomics,
Yeah.
less about regulatory, mostly around the tokenomics of it and incentives for the users and all of that. And I'm guessing you would say, yeah, go build it, go build it. Don't hold
Are you
back.
asking Doug the person or Doug the lawyer?
Are they different?
Oh, yeah. Very different. I don't want to give legal advice. I will say one thing. The statute of limitations is long. And things that people think because there's buzz about, a deregulated environment today, can change dramatically in 4 years. Look at how much things have changed in the last 12 weeks. So how I approach these things is I analyze what I believe to be the correct legal analysis for a project based upon what I think I can win in a court. That's not what most people do. I'm a litigator though. So I don't advise people in advance. I get it after somebody screwed up usually. And clean up the mess. So, but when I'm asked to analyze something, I analyze it from the perspective of this is what I think I can justify in court if challenged. And if I think I can, incidentally, that has nothing to do with the personalities of the regulators at a given period of time. That's about the law. So I might be less inclined to say, just go do whatever the hell you want than you would think based upon Doug, the person's, general viewpoint on how it should be. So you didn't specify. Doug, the person, says, it'd be great if everybody just get the lions out of the cage, man. Start prodding them in the ass with the cattle prod and get them out of those freaking cages. But Doug, the lawyer, if giving advice, would probably take a little bit of a more conservative approach.
Caution.
Don't piss off the lions.
Yeah, yeah. I still want to hear who the zookeeper is in your analogy, and we can go down that path different time.
Gary Gensler.
So this is most important question. Have you guys finished your taxes? It's tax day tomorrow.
I did about 4 days ago, and it's like a nightmare 2-month, 3-month period for me, and it's just horrible. And it's yes, it's like it really does affect like 2 months of my life. Yeah, it's very difficult.
I filed an extension. Not because I wasn't done, but my accountant needed some more time. But today is a tearful day for me. Because I'm a law firm partner. I have to pay my taxes for last year plus my estimated taxes for this quarter at the same time today. So I just sent the payments today, and I think I need another basil.
Another bottle. One more bottle for Doug.
If I could just have 1 year of what I make, it would materially impact my life. But alas, they don't let me do it.
Well, I mean, come on, we all know you don't pay taxes, right?
So the opposite. I'm such a stickler. Like if it's down to the penny. When I used to mine, I don't mine anymore. But when I used to mine, like it was crazy. It was crazy. Like I literally computed the taxable gain on the mining rewards on a minute by minute basis. Every time one of those little transactions came in on every one of the machines, I had like a script and spreadsheets, and it was pulling data from from CoinMarketCap to get the pricing, and it was nuts. Also,
Well,
accurate.
I have to do that for still for the foundation as well, for the Raven Quint Foundation. And it was tough. I mean, it's easier now. It's not as many donations, but there were donations coming at different times. So I had to write a thing to go get the price for everything.
Yeah.
So I do have those scripts now, so it makes it easier.
Python.
Today I bought. Oh, go ahead.
Python. When you write something, you write it in Python, don't you?
I think I did. Yeah. Today I just let Grok choose what to write it in, but I probably wrote it in Python. Yeah. So today I bought an island. Yeah, it's inflatable, but nevertheless, 13 feet by 10 feet.
You mean a floating island, not an island anchored to the
Yeah,
earth?
that's right. Floating island. It holds 7 people, 6 cup holders, two coolers.
Nice.
And, yeah. So
Well, look, someday I'll be there with you in the.
you should.
Yeah.
You should.
I mean,
Yeah.
I just bit off. Starting a law firm is a pretty serious thing.
Yeah, that's huge. Congratulations.
Huge sort of, responsibility and challenge. So I'm looking forward to it. It's been, I should have done this 10 years ago. It's been incredible.
Yeah.
It's only been 10 days, but I feel completely, no ding on my former partners or my former firm or anything.
No. From my perspective, I could see the shift when you went from the other firm to this firm and then back to this one, even the last 10 days. So it makes a difference. I can tell.
Yeah.
It's a different thing.
I'm like a new, I'm invigorated in a way that I haven't been in a long time. So
yeah,
we're still recording, so I'm not going to talk about, but I'm really, really, couldn't be more excited about what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great. Your name's on the door now.
On the door. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So
very cool.
Okay, so are we done? Cocktails and Crypto, 1 hour, we're good?
Yeah, we can call it.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll shut the recording down and then we can.
We need to make this a podcast too, right?
Hey,
the audio part. Nobody needs to see my face.
Do it. Yeah, no, I might not mine either. I mean, I don't, when I watch it, it's like, I don't want to look at myself. I don't like the sound of my voice, but I do think we have some really good points interspersed.
Yeah.
I mean, these are very good discussions. I wish more people, listen to them, because we do get some listeners, but there's a lot of information in this room,
Well, I think we need to polish up the production value.
You
I
think?
think that would help.
Yeah. My wrinkled shirt.
But I don't know how to do that.
All right. I'll shut it off. Hold on.